Hey, hey, hey! How is everybody doing tonight? Welcome to this stream about all things KRONO, a new module by Jolin Lab. Hello, Nistada! I'm just going to read what the people in the chat are saying. So Nistada said hello. Rustlos says I'm fine. Hey Rustlos. MZ2250 says hello. Hello to you too, sir. I'm okay. I did my best not to fall asleep because I was scared I would completely miss the start of the stream, and I managed not to fall asleep, so that's a win on my part. Yeah, no, love, I'm sure, I'm 100% sure that you don't pronounce the name love as love, but I'm not going to give it a shot to say it in Swedish. So yeah, I have to admit that I already did the unboxing this afternoon. But I have the box for KRONO here, which is lately Jolin has been using these nice cardboard cylinders, and they are really, really nice. I think they might be good for some ASMR content, but well, let's not do that today. Nistada says you already had a lot of hassle waiting for FedEx. Yeah, well, I wanted to do the stream this afternoon, as some of you know. But, well, the package was supposed to be delivered before the stream started, but, well, of course, it wasn't here, so I couldn't do the stream without a module. Nistada says, is there no pink inside? Well, there's pink. Well, it's hard. My light is drowning out the color, but there's pink on the sticker outside, and well, of course there is some pink inside. There's this nice wrapper that the module was wrapped securely in, and there was a nice pink paper with a personal message from Federico, and then the screws that I almost never use because I use what are they called? Knurlies. And a little pink rubber band. Yeah, well, there's still this wrapper as well, Nistada. So this was around the regular brown wrapper was a nice pink one, as we all know that Jolin always likes to do. So let me put that back inside the box. There was a nice sticker as well of a sweet little kitty cat. It's this the kind of holographic material, which is really cool. I never know where to put my stickers, but I always like a nice sticker, even though they just usually end up in a drawer somewhere. So, well, we had a nice look at the box. Any questions? Yeah, but I already installed the module, as you can see. And if you hadn't noticed, this one here is KRONO, the one with the two buttons here on top. Well, full disclaimer, this is the first time that I power up the module. I haven't tried it out. I just connected this one cable from a random output into my scope just to see what the gates are doing here, and to figure out how long they are. But other than that, I haven't done anything. This was literally 2 minutes before I started to stream. So this isn't going to be a video where I explain everything in detail about the module. There won't be a huge amount of patch examples and stuff like in a regular video. No, this is really just me firing up the module for the first time and figuring out what everything does, why it exists, and what the benefit of this particular module is. For anyone who doesn't know anything about KRONO, KRONO is a 4HP. I'm not even paraphrasing from the manual, I'm just going from memory. This is an interesting clock module that generates all sorts of interesting clocks and rhythmic patterns that you should be able to use for a plethora of things in your system. There's different modes. At the moment, I think there's 10. You can go through them with combinations of these buttons. You can tap in your own tempo like that. But you can also send in an external tempo. Let me see if I can figure out how to work with this. Well, let's... Hoofjaw made it into the stream as well. There's a few familiar faces here, which is always nice. And there's also a few new people, which is also nice. Giaron says hello Giaron, thanks for joining. Morph Modular says hi Morph Modular. Jolin Lab says pink is the way. It certainly is. Nistada asks, there are 10 modes, how do you see which mode you are in? Well, I had a read through the manual and there is a way to tell. But, well, let me see if I can bring in part of the manual here. Let me try and figure this out, how I can navigate all these different windows here. So you should be able to see my cursor there. Let me go up. So this is the manual for KRONO. You can read that there. There's a part of the text cut off, but KRONO is a 4HP programmable multi-mode clock and rhythm generator featuring tap tempo, state persistence, which I think means if you turn it off and you turn it back on, it will remember where you were, in which mode you were. CV group swap, which means that you can swap with the press of a button the function of the left row with the function of the right row, and 12 independent outputs. So I haven't mentioned it, but the first one here is an external clock input. The second one is a CV input that corresponds to the function of this mod knob here, or button I should say, and everything else here are outputs. And well, I think the answer to your question, Nistada, is somewhere here in this text here. So tapping the tempo is as easy as just pressing it 3 times. And the bass tempo is always available from the first 2 outputs here. Sometimes the second is different from the first one, but these are the basis for everything else that's going on. So it should work. If I tap in something really slow, yeah, I'm seeing now that this first and second LED starts blinking a lot slower. I was under the impression that it was the red LED giving me an indication for the tempo, but I'm guessing that's not the case. And then when we read on Nistada, well, and everyone else, to select operational modes, press and hold the tab button, then click the mod button a few times. If you press it 2 times, this will select mode 2, and then if you click the tab button again, the LED will blink a few times, indicating which mode we are in. And I'm guessing we started in mode 1. Let's have a look at the different modes here. I have them listed there. You should be able to read this. Well, let me first patch up some sound here, so you're not just listening to the sound of my voice. We can actually hear something happening. I want to do something basic here to run through all the modes, so we're getting it without confusion. At least that's my goal. So let's connect. I don't know yet if that's the best idea, but let's just do something. Let's connect this bass output here to a kick. No, sorry, not a kick, to a hi-hat. So we should be always able to hear what the basic clock output is doing. Let me see if I can bring up a mixer channel. We should be able to hear this. Let me know if you all can hear me yapping away and a hi-hat. So if you're only hearing me, that's not good. There needs to be a hi-hat in between. Ruslo says very quiet. I don't want it to be too loud because it's not particularly enjoyable sound, but you should be able to hear it. Nistada says sound is good. Okay. As long as you're able to hear it, that's okay. Let me see if I can use these outputs here to trigger this low pass gate, I'm going to send a few VCOs through there. So the first one is a saw wave output from 3 body. The second one is a square wave output from the second VCO of 3 body. This should give us 2 signals to compare against the steady clock. Of course, we're not hearing anything yet because I yet have to connect the CV signals for the low pass gates. Let's use these red cables for those. So let me just take 2 random outputs here and see if I can get those to work. Let's choose another output here. I think that might be a little bit too loud. What do you think? Is this okay? Let me retune my VCO so there's more of a difference there. I think this is nice. And now if we tap in another tempo, like a faster one, we should be able to hear that the clock speed for all outputs increases. Which is indeed the case. Okay, I'm getting confused here with all my windows, but I'm guessing that currently we are in the first mode of operation, which, as you can read from the list on screen, is ratios. So these are multiplications and divisions. Group A, which is the left row here, is sending out multiples, so these would be faster than our base rhythm. And then group B, which are the right outputs, sends out, let me get this right, sends out divisions, so these will be slower. And indeed that's what we are hearing from the output here. Let's choose another output from the second group here for one of our synths. And maybe let's take another one from group A as well. So as you can hear, the lower we go, well, at least for group A, the lower we go, the faster the clock is, so the higher the multiplication. And on the right, it's the other way around. The lower we go, the higher the division, so the slower the clock. Can we get a divide by 3? Yes, that's a divide by 3. Mistada says, love the fact that you have divided and multiplied clocks in one module. Yeah, that's really interesting. I have those on Pamela's new workout, but of course that's an 8 HP module, and it's a little bit more expensive as well. And if you really just want something straightforward, this is really interesting. Now, the reason I had hooked my scope up when we started was to see if the clock outputs are like LFOs or gates, or if they are short pulses, and they are in fact short pulses. By the way, in case anyone didn't notice yet, we have Federico from Jolin in the chat. So if you have any questions about the module, you can ask him directly. And thank you a lot, Federico, for being here. Well, I have a question. How long are the pulses of the outputs on KRONO? Can you enlighten us? Jolin Lab answers, the software is set at 1 millisecond, so those are really short pulses. I also understand that you can program KRONO yourself, but then you have to know at least something about programming. I'm not sure what language this is. I noticed there was something about that in the manual, but I'm such a noob about programming that I have a hard time even interpreting that. Yes, you answered my question already. It's a variable. So the gate or trigger length is a variable, so you can change it for yourself. It can be modified through programming. And is this using a web-based browser, or how does that work? No hidden secrets. To make this patch a little bit more interesting, I am going to use KRONO for its core function. Well, it's not the only core function, but it is one important function, and that is clocking something else in my system. I'm going to use one of the outputs, the base output, or maybe I should not use the base output. Let me use just another random output here to sequence or to clock a sequencer. A horse in a hospital says, hello, 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 a horse in a hospital. I trust you are not really in the hospital, well, and that you are not a horse either, of course. So I've connected a mult. No, I haven't connected a mult. I'm confused here. See, I should have slept at least for like half an hour. I've connected this output here, which is a multiplication from our base clock, to the external clock input of a sequencer. I'm using Moskwa 2, and I'm just going to send this into the volt-proctive input of one of our synth voices. For anyone that joined the stream later, welcome to the stream. Today we're having a look at a new module by Jolin Lab called KRONO. It's a 4 HP interesting timekeeper. It can do clocks, it can do divisions, as we will see in a few, in the next hour or so. It can do Euclidean stuff, it can do chaos, it can do, well, all kinds of interesting things. John BEDM says hello, Brice, hello chat, hello John, nice to see you again. So right now we're still in just the multiplication and division setting, which is mode 1 of the module. Let's take another output here to sequence my, or to step through the steps of my sequencer. Maybe here. Oh, I'm being awfully clumsy today. Let's just play around with what we can do with just one mode here. Now, an interesting thing that I want to try out for the first time here is that swap function, and we can read here in the explanation for the first mode here that swap inverts functions between groups A and group B. So instead of the first row here being the multiplication and the second one being the divisions, if I press the swap button or send a gate into the according CV input, you're going to swap the function of these outputs. And let's scroll back up. To swap, we need to, where was it? Swap groups A and B, there it is. Give the mod button a short press or send a gate signal to the mod in to swap. So essentially, if I press the mod button, everything should change. Indeed, and this is extremely cool, because, well, what I am thinking right now is we should be able to feedback patch this. So if we take the slowest division, which is now on the lowest jack of row A, because we swapped the functions around, if we send this into the CV input for the mod or the swap function, should be able to automate this swapping. But of course, because as soon as we swap, we have the multiplications there, and the lowest being the fastest, it almost immediately switches back. But this is something that I want to try maybe in another mode, because this swapping behavior is really interesting. So let's swap back. That's really cool. That's a really clever idea, Federico. Yeah, cool function. Nistada says there is no reset input, right? No, there's no reset input. That's correct. Well, that's multiplication and division in group 1. But like I said, this isn't going to be an extensive playthrough video. I'm not going to go very deep into every nook and cranny of this module. I just wanna see what it can do in a really simple setup. And I wanted to share this with you because that's always nice. So group 2, or no, I should say mode 2, is Euclidean rhythms. Now let me try and remember how to get there. Let's remove everything again so we better can see what's happening. So if I remember correctly, to get to mode 2, which is the Euclidean mode, I should, what was it? I think I should hold the tap button until the LED keeps being lit, which has happened now. Then I should press the mod switch. I keep saying switch, this is a button. The mod button 2 times for mode 2. So 1, 2. And then I should go back with the tap button. And then this should blink twice. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I think that's right. So this is another indicator that shows us in which mode we are. It blinks twice and then there's a pause. At least that's how I interpret it. If I'm saying things wrong here, because this is actually the first time that I run through these functions, please, Mr. Jolin, let me know. Federico, aka Mr. Jolin himself. 100% correct. Awesome. Aha. So now we are in Euclidean mode. Once again, we should have the bass tempo from the first outputs here. In fact, let me take the second one to show you that in these modes it does exactly the same. So the first 2 outputs are rarely different. They're all usually just the clock output, and it's the lower 5, well, the 2 groups of 5 outputs here that do the interesting stuff. Maybe instead of working with this low pass gate here, I can try and pinging a filter. I'm sure that would be nice. Maybe I can pluck a delay and ping a filter. So let's take the output of delay 1 here. This is a bucket brigade delay that's kind of designed as an audio source and effector. It's not really designed for nice ping pong delays. So it has a separate plug input, and we should be able to plug that input with an output from KRONO here. Let's see if that is true. That is true. Let's turn up the feedback a little bit. And as you can hear, this is indeed some kind of Euclidean pattern. It's not written out in detail in the manual what the Euclidean patterns are, but they're all different. And again, if you press the swap button, the row of, well, the left row and the right row will switch places, so to speak. Let's take another one of these to ping Collide 4. Collide 4 is this module here. I'm just using a bandpass filter as part of the module to ping. We should be able to hear that, at least when I connect it to an audio input of my mixer. I really like Euclidean patterns. In fact, let me see if I can add a few more outputs of, well, if I can use a few more outputs of KRONO to trigger interesting things here. Is there anything in screen that I can trigger? Well, maybe this module here on top. You can barely see it, but at least it's on screen. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit. I will zoom back in later. Let's take, well, just take a random output here, and let's use that to ping this filter here. I'm curious what it will sound like. I always like experimenting with filter pings. Let's try and not blow out our eardrums here. Let's make this stereo, shall we? I think that's really cool, really interesting. And let's use yet another output here of KRONO to ping yet another filter to the right here. Let's see how this sounds. Once again, let's try and do this gently. Maybe this is not the best filter to ping. Hey, at random says hi all. Hi Ed. Thanks Ed for your comment about, I don't know on what video it was, but for your comment about Belgium Modular Day. I'm really going to make an effort to be there. Or maybe I'll see you there as well. So for people who joined in later, today it's, well, another unusual stream. Today we are having a look at a module that just arrived today in the mail, straight from Italy. And it's KRONO by Jolin Lab. This module is an interesting clock source for smaller systems, well, for bigger systems as well, but I think it's very much suited for small systems because it's only 4 HP. So it has an internal clock with tap tempo. You can also send in external clock, and then it has like 10 different modes for 10 these 10 lower outputs that give you like divisions, Euclidean patterns, random probabilities, chaos, etc. So we're at mode 2 currently. I first demonstrated the first mode, which gives us multiplication and division. So the left group of outputs here was giving us multiplication, so times 2, times 3, times 4, etc. And the right group was giving us divisions, divide by 2, 3, etc. And then there's an interesting feature of this module in particular, that when you press this button here once, or you send something into this input short gate, you swap the function of the outputs. So like in this example, this should work as well. If I press this, everything should change. That's really, really cool. So, rustloos, I'm not ignoring you. I just wanted to say something about the module first. But what is making the stereo image? Rustloos asks. Well, I'm sending the outputs of everything that I'm doing here, of the pink filters right now, to a mixer, and I'm just panning my outputs, panning my channels, I should say, on my mixer. At random says this is a DSP module. I think Federico, that is something for you to answer. I'm not sure. Is this a DSP module? There is a programming involved. Well, at least if you want to, you can change a lot of the functionality yourself. I do not have any idea how to do that, so I'm going to use it just as it is, straight from the box. But if you can, if you know anything about programming, you can change up a lot of the features, maybe even all of them. Jolin Lab answered, it's programmed in C++. At random is wondering if it does introduce latency. I wonder if that's an issue, because, well, if it's the master clock, latency shouldn't be an issue at all. But maybe when you're using it as an, well, maybe when you're sending in your own external clock, that might be an issue. I'm not sure. But Jolin Lab answers zero latency. Awesome. Let's swap states here again. I think this is really interesting. Let's try a few other outputs, because, well, they all have Euclidean patterns, where all of them are a little bit different. Let's increase the speed of the clock a little bit. We can do this by just tapping in our own tempo. Maybe for this example I can connect a kick drum to one of the outputs as well. Let's take just the second output from group A here. And let's send that to a kick drum. I think this is sounding really cool. Now when I press the swap function, well, it's the mod switch, but it does the swap function. That's immediately something completely different. That's really, really awesome. Jolin Lab says I'm guessing C++ allows to control directly the microcontroller. It's not DSP based. Rustlos asks, how fast can it go? Well, I'm guessing it cannot go as fast as I can press it, which probably isn't all that fast, but let's try it. But I'm sure if you send in like a VCO, well, let's just try it. So let's try the external clock input here, which is just a signal from a VCO right now. I'm using a square VCO, and if I increase the speed, we soon hit a maximum there, but that's already ridiculously fast. So let's tap in the tempo. Yeah, that's a little bit better for my nerves. Left Coastline says, sounds like my old Toyota. Awesome. John BEDM says, cool patch, Brice. Thanks, John. I think so too. These are just all pinked filters. A hi-hat going from the bass outputs here, and then a kick drum. Let's switch these outputs again, or swap, I should say. That's really, really cool. That's a really cool feature. Let's send one of these outputs to an external to the external clock of my sequencer, and then I should be able to maybe sequence one of my voices here, maybe this plucked delay. Now of course this isn't going to be in scale with everything else that I made here, but it sounds rather nice. I think this sounds really cool. John says, what a handy module. Yes, it is. Now I want to try something else. Let's make a high note on my sequencer. Let's turn up the random on my sequencer as well, so the notes don't always play like in the same direction. I shouldn't even make a high note. I'm just going to use one of the gate outputs of my sequencer, but because it is in random play mode, it won't always play that note. If I send the gate output of that one note into the swap input here, we should get like random automatic swaps of these two sides. Which is kind of giving us random-ish rhythm patterns but they're not random at all. They're just based on 2 rows of different Euclidean rhythms. Really, really cool. Now, Westloos asks, how slow can it go? Well, I'm pressing the wrong button here. So let's press the tap button really slow. So I don't know if you can see how slow I am pushing this. It took a while, but finally calculated the tempo. I'm sure this is not the slowest that it can go, but this is already damn slow. Jolin Lab says max tempo is 1818 BPM, which is extremely fast. Minimum tempo is 10 BPM. It's a nice broad range there. Anyway, let's pull out all the cables now, because otherwise we'll be stuck here in this Euclidean mode, which I really, really like, for another hour or two. And I want to get through the other modes as well. So let's disconnect all the cables. There we go. So let's keep that one cable connected for the bass tempo. And then I should go down here a little bit in the manual. So mode 3 is musical. I'm not sure what that means. Let me read. Output clocks based on rhythmic ratios, fractions of the bass tempo. So they're not really straight divisions. They are like, well, yeah, ratios. That's interesting. Let's go to mode 3 and figure out what that is all about. So once again, to go to mode 3, we press and hold the tap button until the LED lights up. Then we press the mod switch or button 3 times for mode 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we press the tap button again. And then we can see that this starts blinking 3 times. And then a pause, which indicates that we are in mode 3 for all the outputs. So again, the first 2, so A1 and B1, I think they are called, well, it's the other way around, it's 1A and 1B. Those are just the bass tempo. Let's increase this a little bit by manually tapping in a faster tempo. Slow it back down a bit. And I can already see from the speed of the blinking LEDs that a couple of these outputs are really going fast. So let's see what we can do with that. Maybe now I should use those outputs to maybe trigger envelopes here. So I'm going to use mats, which again, apologies, but is off screen. I'm going to use the two low outputs here to trigger two envelopes. And let me just be lazy about this. Use those to open and close. Well, maybe just the low pass gate here. So there. So these outputs are used for envelopes. The envelopes are used for CV. Are used on the CV inputs of this low pass gate, and then I'm just going to send in like two random VCOs into the signal inputs of that low pass gate. Let me see that I get the right inputs. And then if we listen to those, we should get an idea what this mode is all about. So as you can hear, this is really an interesting relationship rhythmically between the hi-hat coming from this output here and the pattern for our synths. Let's take another output here. That's really interesting. Let's connect this lowest one here to the kick drum again. Now, this one is reacting weirdly. Let's see if it... Yeah, that's better. There's something weird with my kick drum module. It doesn't really respond well. Oh, well, let's plug this decay. Sorry, this delay instead. So let's see if I can swap these outputs by using something else than a trigger signal. I want to know if I can use like something slow, like for example this slowly looping envelope here. Let's first listen to how it sounds when we swap outputs. So the difference between one swap state and the other one is pretty clear here. Let's now see if I can make it swap with just a slow envelope. And yes, it also swaps, which is something I very much enjoy seeing. Because this means that you can also send in like LFOs and stuff. Okay. So this is just going by itself, and I really really like that it's just going. It's crazy. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. I'm just going to have to blow my nose in the next room. So at random asked, are the LEDs SMT? Jolin Lab said we built, LEDs are THT. I don't know what any of that means, but well, I'm sure people who know what that means will be able to do something with that information. I'm really a noob when it comes to like DIYing and programming. T Christ. Hi. T Christ says, just getting here has spontaneously combusted in flame yet. But maybe earlier today, when I was waiting for this module to arrive, and well, I had to postpone the stream because FedEx was too late. Hovja asks, what voltage triggers the swap? If there is a particular voltage that does the swap. I'm not sure. Let's try figuring it out. Let's send this cycling envelope through data to do some diagnostics. This isn't the most musical patch here, but well, I'm going with it. So it seems to me that the swapping happens when the voltage goes back down again. So it rises up to 10 volts, and then when it almost reaches, like, I'm guessing when it somewhere between 5 and 2.5 volts, when it's going down, it triggers the swap. Maybe that's also something that Federico can give us some insight in what voltage does trigger the swap. I'm noticing that it's the downward, the voltage going down on the contour 1 here that triggers the swap when it almost reaches 0. Yeah, of course I could take select to Nistala, but that's too easy, right? Yeah. No. Let's do that. I could even go into voltage monitor to see at what voltage, but kind of don't want to. So yeah, it's around 1 volt, but only when it's going down. So the falling edge triggers the swap, and it triggers around 1 volt. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the musical ratio output, which is a little bit of a weird one. But now let's remove everything once again and let's go try and figure out mode 4, which, as I'm seeing, has something to do with probability. And if you know me a little bit, you know that I love my probability gates and my random skips. So again, the hi-hat is just connected to one of the 2 bass outputs here. This is just going. So to go to mode 4, once again, I have to press tab and hold. Then press this button 4 times, press tab again. And then we can see that we are in mode 4 by counting how many times this LED flashes. And this is indeed 4 times. So now we are in probabilistic mode, trigger probability. Group A has a predefined increased probability, 10 to 50%, and group B has a decreasing probability of 50 to 3%. Okay, so this will be interesting once we start swapping things around. Nistada says, good design concerning the modes. Yeah, I agree. So maybe I should connect some drums right now. Let me just use the SLD by Soundforce. So what was it going? Increasing probability and decreasing. So on the left row, the lowest jack will have the highest probability, and on the right row, the lowest jack will have the lowest probability. That was a lot harder than it was supposed to be. So let's connect this there. So this is a kick drum coming from the lowest output here, which is around 50% probability. At random says, I find probability a strong tool. It's like pepper. Yes, absolutely. And let's take another random output here, connect it to a snare, the snare channel on the SLD. Let's increase the tempo here a little bit by tapping in a faster tempo. I think that's a fitting tempo for these sounds. We have more sounds in that module. Let's just connect one more. So this is just all probability gates triggering the drums. Hey, Porphyris is always late to the game. Now I've got to catch up. Well, we're running through all the modes on the new module by Jolin Lab called KRONO. It's an interesting module that takes care of clocks, trigger patterns. It does Euclidean rhythms, it does divisions, multiplications. Currently we're exploring mode 4, which is a mode with probability settings, which is something that I like very much. I wonder if you're going to hear much of a clear difference when I swap these sides here by pressing the mod switch. Yes, because now our kick drum that had the highest probability has now the lowest probability. Okay. Let's go back. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So maybe now I can once again connect one of these outputs here. Let's take the second one of group A to clock my external sequencer. Let's take an output of cycle 5 here. Let's monitor that first. This is going to be extremely annoying if I keep it at that volume. Let's connect the output of my sequencer to the fault productive input on cycle 5. And maybe let's modulate the vari-wave parameter a little bit with an output from orbit 3. Porphyry says, yes, looks super interesting. Well, so far it has turned out to be extremely interesting. Clocks are my everything. Yeah, clocks are important, and this is especially being 4 HP module with an internal clock. It's extremely interesting. T-Christ says that is a nice feature, the swap. Yes, it is. In this mode it's a little bit less apparent, but when we were in the Euclidean mode, this was really interesting. Nistada says yes, swap is great. Indeed. Let's do a swap. You can hear that our kick drum, which is now connected to the output with the lowest probability, is just firing off very rarely. At Random says, to be honest, it looks great, but being digital there will be latency which is not specified. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about stuff like that. I don't know how digital something has to be to incorporate latency. But well, as long as you use it as a master, I wonder if there would be any latency at all. Maybe there would. Like I said, I'm really a noob when it comes to all things digital and programming and DSP and DIYing and whatnot. Okay. How much I would like to stick while with this probability mode. Let's once again remove all the cables to explore yet another mode of the module. We have quite a few to explore still. Let's have a look here in the manual. Group or mode 5, I should say, is sequential mathematical sequences. Yeah. Default Fibonacci. I'm not sure. I'm just going to try it out. So tap and hold. Then tap this right button 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press tap again. And now 3, 4, 5. You can see 2, 3, 4, 5. This LED flashes 5 times, and then there's a pause indicating that we are in mode 5. So just as previously, this yellow cable is just using a base output, a base rhythm here, which is the basic clock, probably. Yes, that's just the basic clock. And it's the lower groups of 5 that have the special abilities, so to speak. So maybe let's once again connect these to the drums. So this seems to be a 4 to the floor. But what is the second output here? So that seems to be a just a factor 1. This is a divide by 2. This is probably a divide by 3. So this is the Fibonacci stuff. This will be a divide by 5. And then the next one will be a divide by... I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah, first I'm going to change up this pattern here before I start reading, so it's a little bit less repetitive. Let's just connect a few random outputs here to a few random drums. Something like that, and maybe I can ping a filter here. Let's once again use a collide 4 here, just because it's conveniently close. Maybe let's take a ring modulator output. Maybe we can take 2, then it's in stereo. I always love a little bit of stereo. Let's use a regular output here with the bass tempo to step through my sequencer, and then I should be able to sequence the notes on collide 4 here with that sequencer. So there's a little bit of talk in the chat. Let's try and read through it. John BDM says it looks genius for messing with Orbit and using Orbit 3's gate out to clock in. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. T Christ asks what's the long pauses between clocks there. It seems to be going through a pattern and then stopping. I'm not sure what you mean. Oslos, it would be nice to have 2 which are clocking each other. That would be interesting indeed. The crude guy says hello crude guy, and asks when syncing KRONO from external clock, is there a way to get the KRONO in phase again after a stop start? Does it realign automatically? Jolin Lab answers it samples the new clock every 4 triggers. The same that happens with the tap tempo. So yeah, it automatically realigns. This means that you can copy the new clock and unpatch the cable to use that output somewhere else. Aha. So, because there's so much interest in the external clock behavior, I'm curious about it as well. So let's just take an output of Pamela's new workout running at 120 BPM, and let's connect that to the external clock input on KRONO. And I'm guessing that when I now disconnect it, it keeps going at this pace. No, it doesn't. Aha, that's interesting. Really weird. And now it reacts. Okay. So what happens when I stop this clock? Well, that's probably the same thing as if I disconnect the cable, but let's manually stop the clock. So I stopped the clock. Yeah, so it behaves exactly the same as if disconnecting the cable. So, was it T Christ? What's the long pause between clocks there? It seems to be going through a pattern and then stopping. I'm not sure what you mean. If you are looking at this red LED here, this one is not indicating the clock speed. This was what I thought first as well. This one just gives us the state, so it's flashing 5 times, then it stops, and this indicates that we are in mode 5. I was confused by this first as well. T-Christ says, I'm looking at the blue LEDs. The thing is, maybe you're missing certain flashes of the LEDs due to shutter speed settings. I'm noticing when I watch the screen here that sometimes the LEDs are not, the flashing is not showing. And this is just an artifact of dealing with shutter speeds. For me, they keep blinking. Yeah, I'm seeing there's a long pause now on screen, but in real life they keep blinking, which is probably very confusing. But I think that is what you are seeing there, T-Christ. So the long pauses that you see with the blue LEDs aren't actually pauses, that's just an artifact of shutter speed. Let's press the swap button here. Let's press it again. Let's do the trick again where I have a gate output or a random gate output from my sequencer connected to the swap CV input, which will give us like pseudo-random rhythms, because the swapping between the two sides is like randomized. And why is it random? Because my sequencer is set to stepping through its steps in a random way. T-Christ says, I can hear the gates, just can't see them. Yes. I feel like doing something gnarly here with Collide 4. Just amuse me for a moment. I want to do something else. Let's try not to make it too obtrusive. That's the wrong output, Simon. Maybe I can take another one of the outputs of KRONO here to trigger an envelope, and then I can use that envelope to open and close this filter. And this is something that I like to do when I have like a lot of clock outputs to work with. It's just sending different fractions or divisions or like probabilities to wait, I've managed to knock it loose here. So what I then like to do is just send two random outputs to two separate function generators, and then if you just send the envelope outputs to a mixer, maybe let's do it. Let's use Singoli as a utility mixer for two envelopes here that are triggered by two random outputs here. And then if I take the end result of that mix and send it to the CV input, you should get pretty dynamic synth lines, especially when the gates or the triggers start stacking up. Another thing that you can do is bring down the level of one of them . change the intensity of the CV signal. Jolin Lab says the shutter speed ghost, yeah. And T-Christ says, run for your lives. Maybe I should quantize what I'm doing here. Because why not? Let's add some delay. I like this mode, says T-Christ. Are other mathematical sequences available? Well, I'm not sure. Swaps sequences between groups. It says there the default is Fibonacci. I'm not sure. I wonder if the swaps between different types of. I'm not sure. Federico will have to answer this one. Anyway, let's pull everything out. Even though this sounds rather cool, if you ask me. And let's explore another. I'm hitting my microphone here. Apologies. I'm getting into a wire mess here. There, this one, there. Okay. So let's now have a listen to mode 6, which is the swing and the shuffle. So hold, tap and hold, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tap again. And then we should be in the swing and shuffle mode. So group A is a set of unique swing percentages, delaying even numbered beats like is usual with swing. Group B is a different set of swing percentages. Yeah, okay. So maybe I should I think it's a good idea to send this basic tempo here to a clock divider. I have to use a longer cable for that. So I'm just going to divide our basic clock here by 4. And then I can send that to a kick drum, which might be a little bit cliche, but I think it's easy to hear. So that is our 4 to the floor kick drum. Jolin Lab says, and he's still talking about mode 5 with the musical sequences. There's 4 different musical sequences: Fibonacci, primes, Lucas, and composites. But well, we were I had automated the swapping, so we probably heard all of them because they were switching all the time. Let's listen to these shuffled or swinged outputs here. Let's just start with the top left one. So there's a little bit of swing there. If I take just the regular clock output, we can hear that this is indeed a straight clock. And then this second output here is swung a little bit. If we go more down, that's a swing setting I really like. So these are just different flavors of swing, different percentages. Can I add a snare drum to this to give it a little bit more context? Yes, I can. So we're just swinging the hi-hat. So instead of using the hi-hat for the bass rhythm, like I've been doing the whole video, I am now only swinging the hi-hat. Everything else is based on the bass rhythm here. Let's go down. Let's listen to the right row, the row called B. Nistada says, time to rap some lines. Yes. Now what happens when I press the swap function? Yeah, it just swaps between the settings of the left and the settings of the right group, just as before. A nice swing setting, a way to create swing is always nice, always nice. There's not a lot that I can say about that. So let's go to group 7. Let's remove everything. I said group 7, I mean mode 7. So tap and hold. Press this button here 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then press tap again. 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pause. Yeah, so we're in mode 7. Let's see what that is. This is the mode for polyrhythms. So as you can read there, group A outputs 2A to 5A generate polyrhythms with XY ratios. Output 6A is the logical or sum of all the other ones. Okay, that's interesting. And group B is just different polyrhythms with another logical or sum. Okay, and then swaps the XY ratio sets between groups. Again, that's something that I have to hear to really know what it means. So let's use the bass output for the hi-hat again. We got kind of used to this, right? Let's change the tempo manually here. Maybe I should speed it up. I don't think I want to speed it up. Let's slow it down. Something like that. What can we do here that we haven't done before? I think I just want to ping some filters again. And let's just see what happens when I do so. So let's ping this one here. So that's this one. Let's see what the one next to it does tempo-wise. Let's go to Collide 4 again. Ping input is there. This is tuned way too low. So these are indeed interesting polyrhythms. John BDM says, cool module, amazingly versatile. Yeah, I agree, John. Nistada says, oh my god, need to try that out. And no screen. Yeah, I love modules that don't have a screen. An oscilloscope can have a screen, but everything else doesn't really need one. T. Christ says that they agree about this being a cool module. I think Federico did a really nice job on this module. Okay, so what can we trigger here? Maybe I can just trigger a few ripples filters. I realize a lot of what's happening today is going on off screen. Apologies for that, but I want you to be able to see what's happening on KRONO. I think that's important. So these are polyrhythms. To me, they're just interesting rhythms. It doesn't really matter to me if they're polyrhythms or something else. But, well, they are polyrhythms. Oh, this is... Let me try getting something musical here. Something like that. Maybe I can send something to a kick drum as well. I'm not sure. But this one is going to do, of course, with this short cable, it's not going to work. Let's see. think that's really cool. And let me send another output here to a counter. This one counts to 8. I'm using step 8, which really isn't just a counter, but you can use it as one. And then this means that every 8th step I can extract a trigger signal here to use as a CV source for the swap there. At random says, I don't know, a lot of us have a Pamela and this doesn't seem to add a lot. Well, I think indeed if you have Pamela, you have a lot of the functionality that's in KRONO already. But well, maybe you don't have Pamela, or maybe you have two systems and you need a second versatile clock source. In that case, having a second clock source is interesting. I know I have been in the situation where I built like a portable case. Not that I ever take it somewhere, but sometimes I just want to try like build a mini system. And I plan everything out, and then I realize when I'm done building that I've just forgotten about a clock source. And then I have to sacrifice one of the two VCOs or LFOs in that case as a clock, and well, that's annoying. So that's one example that I can think of, that a 4 HP module that you can surely cram something somewhere in there can be very versatile, and having a few of these interesting other modes in there, not just divisions and multiplications, just adds to the fun. Okay, so that's musical, what was it, polyrhythms? Okay. I need to use one of the lower outputs because those are the OR outputs, which I don't really understand, but yeah, of course, these go really, really fast. Yeah. For this example, that isn't particularly interesting. Anyway, let's go to mode 8, which are logic gates. Let's just keep everything connected and let's switch to mode 8. So let's tap and hold, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tap again. Let's make our clock faster. I'm not sure how this is supposed to behave. Logic gates combines outputs from default mode. I'm not really sure here. Well, it sounds nice. Let's listen to what happens when we swap sides. But we're still using the counter here to swap automatically. So let's remove that. Let's swap manually. Now that's an interesting way to make a transition in a live set or live performance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I mean, this is going to get all the techno lovers wild. Let's add reverb. And then you can start tweaking some filter sweeps. Right? Really cool. Even though I don't completely understand it, which is okay at this point. So this is mode 8 and this does something with logic. The thing is, maybe Federico, you can, I don't know if it's easy to explain, but I don't understand. It does XOR and it does NOR, but between what? It says between the default mode outputs, but what are the default mode outputs in this mode? Do you mean just mode 1? Like the divisions and multiplications? In any case, it sounds interesting. I really like this transition stuff. I can imagine people going wild on the dance floor. 2, 1. Yeah. Okay, enough of that. Let's remove this again to check out mode 9, which has something to do with phasing. And phasing in this situation means like clocks that are slightly drifting, like slightly out of time with each other. One is a little bit faster, one is a little bit slower, stuff like that. I wonder how we can use that in a musical context. So let's hold and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then go back. Yes. So what is... Why is this not... Hi-hat is here. Okay. So this is the default output for group A. Jolin said, yeah, mode 1. So the OR and the XOR, the XOR and the NOR stuff in mode 8 looks at what it should be doing in what it's normally doing in mode 1, which is just using multiplication and divisions, and it takes the XOR and the NOR of that. Okay, so this is the hi-hat running from the default output, so the regular clock. Let's just use this filter. Sorry, I'm wrong here. Help me. The delay. So let's just use the delay to figure out what the other outputs are doing. Let's bring down the reverb. Now the downside is, no, let's so we can hear that this is close to the same, well, probably the same speed, but it's a little bit later. Let me say what, well, let me bring it on screen here first. No, so I'm getting things wrong here. So group A are once again divisions and multiplications. And group B follows like it does the same thing, but the clock is a little bit faster or slower. And then with swap you can change this how much this second group is out of phase. You have options between small, medium and large, just like your fries or Coke. So this means that when I take the same level output here, but from group B, this should be a little bit out of time. Of course, it's very little, so it's probably hard to hear anyway. Let's listen to. Yeah, we can hear that here is some like wonkiness to it. There's some, well, it starts sounding a little bit drunk, maybe even, because there's, you can feel it that there's something off. Let's press the swap button. This should increase the weird drunken feel, I think. Indeed, it does. Let's take the divide by 3 and let's press the swap button again. And this should be the highest phase difference between the two sides. Now all of this is very subtle, but I think that's the point. Yeah, so this is the smallest difference. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Let's listen to the same level outputs there. The difference should be more apparent like this. Let's increase. Yeah, you can hear that they start phasing a little bit. It's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, T-Christ says it should take a minute or so before the gates are far enough apart for you to notice. Indeed. Indeed. Now you start hearing the time between the clocks. Ah, interesting. Yeah. I'm going to have to think a little bit about to find really cool musical implementation for that, but I'm sure I will find something. I'm just answering a message here. Sorry about that. I will be back with you in a minute. So yeah, you can hear that now. The timing between the two clocks is much more separated. That's a nice way to look at it. Well, and then last but not least, we have mode 10, which is all about chaos. I tried dissecting what is written there, but maybe after a good night's sleep I can understand it better. But let's just try it out. So let's remove everything once again. Press tap and hold. Then press this mod or swap button, however you want to call it, 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then the tap button again. And indeed I counted 10 flashes and then a pause, indicating that we are indeed in mode 10. Let's slow down the clock because I can already see that it's going pretty fast. Let's connect the hi-hat to the default output again. Well, one of the two default outputs. And then let's maybe, well, maybe we can use the other outputs to trigger an envelope again. And what can I do with that envelope? Maybe we should just open and close VCA. Yes, that's a good idea, I think. And maybe we can just send an output of cycle 5 through that VCA. Now to connect the envelope output here, we should start hearing stuff. No, we don't. So what am I doing wrong? Ah, there it is. So I'm turning down the length of the envelope here. Let's just run through a few of the different outputs here. I think I'm going to connect another kick drum here with a divide by 4. Let's take another cable for this so we can see what's happening. Let's increase the speed. Jolin says, Brice, the 10 mode has a different way of handling the mod button. I suggest you try it out. Yeah, I read that. It does something with the computation of the chaos. So, well, let's listen to a few of the outputs first, and then I'll start pressing that button. So now I'm just triggering in an envelope that opens and closes a VCA for a VCO. That's probably the most boring thing that you can do with a chaos trigger output. But I think it demonstrates the different patterns, or well, maybe pattern is a wrong word, but it demonstrates the different outputs best, I think. This one is a nice one. Let's proceed. Okay. This one is a fast one. So by the way, if anyone is watching this recording afterwards, I think it's important that you turn on like the replay of the live chat, because there's a lot of dialogue going on in the chat between Federico from Jolin and everyone else. Everyone has interesting questions, and I'm not reading them out loud, at least not all of them. T-Christ asked, how is the gate created for the chaos? And then Jolin says, it follows a matrix of predefined values, crosses it with random time intervals. That's a way to simulate chaos without adding delay in a microcontroller. Well, that's once again stuff that I really don't understand, but I don't think it's important that I do. Okay, so maybe let's connect another one of these signal chains. So just a chaos output to an envelope generator, the output of the envelope generator to the VCA CV input, then an output from a VCO to that VCA. And then if we monitor the output of the VCA, we can hear the effect of the chaos output there. I should I really like this slow one here. And maybe this one? No, maybe this is a little bit too steady. I'm not sure. Something like this. Let's go for the triangle, yes. And now let's press that swap button or mod button, because apparently it does something else in this mode. It changes the way the chaos is calculated. Let's choose that word. Okay, so that was one press. Okay, it keeps increasing. That's really interesting. And it keeps increasing, I mean, the speed. Oh yeah, this is nice reverb. Let's lengthen the envelopes. That's really cool. Let's press this swap button again. And again. So we keep getting slight variations, different chaos outputs. So I keep pressing the swap button. It keeps changing ever so slightly. So what happens if I now patch some feedback here? I mean, that should be interesting, right? Maybe let's add something to this that's not really affected by the outputs of KRONO. Because KRONO is just doing its own thing here. That's cool. Maybe I should connect one more output here. Let's connect it to the trigger input of contour 1. And then let's connect an output of that to the filter I've been using here. This is really cool. Can I use my other kick drum here? Yes, I can, which means that I can use the sidechain envelope output here. Yeah. Let's take another output here. Send it to another envelope generator. I'm just having fun at this point. I think that's allowed, right? Let's just trying out things here. FM index. Maybe let's not use one of these. This is not doing what I want. Maybe I should just sequence. Yes, let's once again use one of these outputs here. Yeah, going to stop playing with this patch. Jolin says bass, yes, for sure. So well, I'm kind of going haywire with this chaos setting here, mode 10 of KRONO, which is awesome. And I'm triggering the swapping between the different calculation methods or the thresholds for the chaos. I'm triggering that with one of the chaos outputs, so the chaos is like controlling itself, which is interesting, and all of that is controlling the triggers for the percussion and the movement of the bass. Maybe I should add a little bit more regular percussion to this. I do have another clock divider going here, so I should be able to connect something else there. Maybe one of the other chaos outputs. Why not? Where? No, that's not really. Don't really like that. So let's use something else here. No. Let's take another output here. Yes. So yeah, that's going to be it for me exploring these modes here. I'll stay on stream for another couple of minutes. I'm not going to suddenly shut it all off. But well, this was my first exploration of this interesting new module by Jolin that you can still pre-order for, I think, 2 more days. Check it out on their website or your favorite synth distributor. It's a really cool module, Federico. It's really nice. There's a really interesting set of tools built into this one module. I especially like the polyrhythms, were really cool. I always like Euclidean rhythms. The more the better. And of course the regular divider and multiplication stuff. And of course the probabilities, the probability settings, probability mode is, maybe it's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites for sure. I got stuck in a knot here with my cable. Jolin says, great stuff, Simon. Mistal says, thank you very much, Simon. Wow. T. Christ says, awesome as always, Simon. Well, thank you for all thanking me and praising my work. Mistal says, thumbs up, Jolin Lab. Absolutely. He also says, oh my god, this bass. Oh yeah. Ruslo says, thank you, both of you. Yeah, Federico, thanks for being on here. I wasn't planning on doing this long of a stream. I didn't want to steal your whole night away from you, but well, I did, and I'm sure you didn't mind that much. Ursula says, it's very nice to have the maker here. I totally agree. It's very much fun to, especially with this type of first exploration. There's always stuff that I haven't thought about, that I have no clue about, and usually those are the things that I gather information about from the maker afterwards, after my own initial first explorations. But it's nice to do it together with a couple of viewers and to be able to ask immediately to the person who built the stuff, like what is going on. That was very cool, and I want to do it more. I should change this melody, right? Am I right? can never help myself to keep changing things here. But I don't think this is going to work anyway. Oh, hell no. This is not what I intended, but well, let's stick with it anyway. Hoofdjaal says, cheers, Pris and Jolin. Cheers, Hoofdjaal. Good to hear from the maker, and it's great to hear that bass. Yes, I love that too. Yeah, we do love us some bass, don't we? Jolin says it was one of the nicest things being here with all of you. Yeah, it was really cool. If there's any questions, now is your last chance. Otherwise, I'll end the stream. This chaos mode is really cool. I mean, this is completely nonsense, but it's really cool. Yeah. Novak, hey Novak, I didn't know you were here. Not what you intended, but it's kind of interestingly woozy, yeah, for sure. Favorite snack to eat before going to bed? Preferably nothing. It's best that I don't eat sweets before bed, because then my blood sugar rises to obnoxious levels. Well, I'm going to have to think about that, Federico. Jolin says, asking the difficult questions here. Absolutely. Like, ask me something technical. I will probably generate some kind of answer, but ask me what my favorite bedtime snack, and I'm at a loss. So yeah, I'm going to finish here. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Thanks to Federico for sending this module over to me straight from Italy. Very grateful for that. You can expect a video about this module, exploring the different modes with a few curated batch examples. But this was my first exploration of that cool thing that is KRONO. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Have a good day, have a good night. Bye.